Pugh. That'll do it! That will do it! Pugh for Bournemouth! The roof of the Gold Sands is raised! Everyone here knows what that could mean to this football.
Well, good evening, guys. Bournemouth have succumbed 1-0 to Wolves at Molineux. It was an improved performance, but that familiar sinking feeling. Callum Wilson still awfully absent up front, but elsewhere, some good shape, some dangerous moments, but ultimately the same defensive errors. In fact, exactly the same error that West Ham made at the weekend. We made changes during the game, but it only made a flexible team become more rigid. Work rate, you've got to say, was improved, but the result was not. And the question is, whereabouts are the goals going to come from? Scary. In this show, we're completely live, of course. And if you want to take part, just grab a pair of headphones, plug them into your phone or your laptop or whatever. Just go to afcbpodcast.com/take part. I'll pop the ticker at the bottom of the screen just so you can see that. And also, I'll be flashing your messages. So if you don't want to take part audibly and visibly, you can send your messages and I'll try to put them on screen. First person I'm going to bring in today is Morgan, who, by all accounts, is not very happy. Fire away, Morgan.
Good evening. So I have just got rid of the BT Sport app off my iPad completely until further notice, because that, when I say got rid of it, I turned the game off. It's really annoyed me. So I don't want to waffle on too much this evening, but so we made changes 49 minutes in. I thought the first half, I thought we were quite composed. I got a few notes done tonight. I thought Smith was getting tight to his man, but still not the midfield. I thought Billen had a bit of a shocker. I know he only come back from a long injury, but again, the midfield, shout out to Lewis Cook. I thought he had an excellent game. I thought the recoveries were fantastic in my opinion. When I saw the team sheet early evening about 5 o'clock, why we're still playing smudge on the wrong side, bring Rico back into the mix. We made a load of changes. So we brought on Billen, as I mentioned. Dan Gosling came on for Philip Billen in the 49th minute. And then we've made 3 substitutions. We brought on Danjuma, Harry Wilson and Solanke. And we took off Brooks, Lerma and Junior Stanislas. Now, firstly, I don't understand why you brought off Brooks. I think Brooks was probably the nearest player to doing anything decent on that pitch. Then to take off Lerma, again, very strange. I'm not sure if he's carrying a knock, but I didn't get that. And then we go on to bring on Solanke. Now, I'm not being rude, but Solanke, reminds me of Nicholas Bentner, who used to play for Arsenal. To be honest with you, I thought Solanke, I could have done a better job than half that team tonight. I was sat here and I was waiting for a call from, I know quite a lot of the first team lads, and that was shocking. It was absolutely and simply shocking. Eddie does this week in, week in. He doesn't sort the subs out early. He mucks around with it. Now, I'm a lover of Eddie Howe for what he's done over the years, but we need to sort it out. And I'm not sure if anyone will agree with me, but potentially just bring Simon Francis and Sideways Sermon back into the mix, because we made subs and I thought Danjuma looked sharp. He had a little curling effort late into the second half. I thought that was in, to be honest. Harry Wilson, as I said last interview, why he's even in the squad, I'm not sure. It was, and all it was is backwards and forward. I've got to say, Traore looked a bit of an idiot when he was squaring up to Adam Smith. Adam Smith wasn't holding back there. And Jermaine Genius was actually nice to us tonight. Anyway, I've covered quite a lot in 2 minutes. So
yeah, you have. I'm going to bring in Al Gard as well, famous from the Vitals forums, but also on Twitter. And you're living in a lovely part of the world, aren't you, Al?
Yeah, it's been a smashing day. It's been lovely and warm. We've even had the old paddling pool out today, so happy days.
But the result, not quite finishing off the day nicely, was it? Pretty poor, eh?
Right. Right. Now, I'm going to start with the positives. Sorry, this fly is going over the camera.
No problem.
Let's start with the positives. great start. We made them chase. We made them chase and sweat for 15, 20 minutes. Excellent. The tracking back of our players, Stan, Brooksy and Lewis Cook was fantastic. And we looked at that stage, we were going to do something. But again, we just kind of slacked off. And when the second half started, by the way, Morgan, you said you was making notes. Was you looking over my shoulder? Because I've got exactly the same thing. You've been copying. So
I think you must have been.
Yeah. And then second half, first 15 minutes, it was Wolves. And it was just a matter of when it was going to happen. And when they scored, we came back at it again. And but look, that's 2 games now since the lockdown, since we've come back, and it's one attempt at goal. Dan Zuma had a shot towards the end, which was about 3 yards wide, but their keeper was never in danger.
I do have to say, just to chip in there, obviously, so I probably watch pretty much every game apart from the scum of the other night. Not through choice, through dinner arrangements, but there we go. But I do need to add in that it's very, 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 very hot today. It's 30 degrees at Molyneux. Now, that's a completely different when I went there last December when I almost had hypothermia. but today it was, I remember having 9 layers on that day, and I don't know how I didn't end up in Wolves General Hospital that night with hypothermia. It was a very cold day. But I thought the game that Gary Neville criticised the hydration break. Now, that's really important for an evening like this. I watched the game last night. Again, I thought that was quite important. I watched the Monday night game, and it wasn't so hot. I think you think about the player having not played football in some time. This is the first time this has ever happened, mucking up their routine and everything. And I know people say, oh, they get paid a lot of money, but I play football myself and I couldn't take that long. You know, people getting injured. I saw the Arsenal game and I don't want to drill too much on other teams, but a lot of people have been injured so far. Aguero's out for the season, I believe. So it's quite a hard amount of time to get back on the pitch, playing 90 minutes in this climate. The interruptions of the drinks break, although it was perfect, you know, you got 5 substitutions. That I think the fourth official indicated a minimum of 4 minutes, but you know, you got all these little stoppages and breaks, and I think it's really important to remember people are human at the end of the day, and to go and play football in 30 degrees. I have a child tomorrow night, and I don't know how I'm going to cope in 28 degrees, but I'll have to find a way. But I think it's so important to remember the players. It's their second 90 minutes, you know. Okay, it was a shambles, and I'm not taking anything away or making excuses, but it's ridiculously hot today, and I do think that would have a part to play. Yeah,
Morgan, brilliant. Thank you very much, mate. We're going to bring some more people in, if that's all right. Well done, mate. Thank you very much for your opinion. And we're going to bring in some podcast regulars in the way of Paul and Mr. Tiggs. Craig Beasley standing by, as is Louis, James, Ross. I can see you all there as well. Chris Hubble. Paul and also Tony as well. Paul, we'll come to you first. We were briefly just off air. I caught you for 2 minutes, and you looked a very unhappy bunny.
Yeah, I didn't say very much. No. Basically, the word impotent, I think, comes to mind. I think we played really quite well at, you know, holding them and making sure that they couldn't attack until Stacey switched off for the goal. And then after that, until probably about 60 minutes, we looked a bit leggy and just like we couldn't get the ball forward. We couldn't find a forward pass, so Smith kept giving the ball away. Stacey kept giving the ball away. There was too many individual mistakes. Billing as well, although he may have been holding an injury by the look of it. He certainly came off with one. So it really was a disappointing performance. Although we did quite well. If we were playing for a point, we were almost there. We nearly did it. I'm not sure whether Eddie went out there with that in mind. I think he possibly did. He didn't want to get a really bad goal difference, which understandable. But today, I think with Villa getting a point, I think that's got to be looked as a disappointing result for us.
Just looking at the stats, 45% in terms of possession. Wolves had the 55. And Tony, first half, we were all sort of texting each other thinking, it's not bad, is it? But we didn't really show much up front. But we were in their half certainly a lot more than we were in Palace's half. So what were your thoughts about how it went? But firstly, team selection. Obviously, Adam Smith on the left-hand side. Most people thought he should be replaced by either Lloyd Kelly or Rico. But what were your thoughts on the starting 11?
I felt the same when I looked at it at the beginning. That said, looking at how Adam Smith did on that position and keeping Traore out of the game. I mean, I don't know if Rico would have been able to do that. If I'm honest, it's not his sort of necessarily his way of playing. I think he'd be backpedaling a lot. So maybe that was why that decision was made. I think the one thing I've always found with us is that we have a really bad performance, Palace.
Yeah.
Then we have a better performance, but we lose. And then we tend to then start to kick on. We get a draw, but maybe then a win. Hopefully a win before the draw this time.
I haven't really got time for that, though, have we?
Well, no, I don't think we have got time for that. But I just think, when we stopped, we were on a bit more of a run in terms of positive performances in the season. And I think we need a run up every time. We just got to get really, really lucky.
One of the plus points, I think, of the first half, well, I say plus points, also negative as well. Al, I thought that Jack Stacey did quite well in getting forward, but for every good moment he had, he also had moments where he lost the ball, they turned us over. And it was almost like that reckless Bournemouth that we saw, us kind of win the championship. But I think, because other teams were pretty much, because they were poor, we managed to get away with it. But in the Premier League, we're not really able to. But I thought he did well, but like I say, it was sort of tit for tat with being good and then being bad 1 minute.
Jack's a very much in and out player. I like him. I do like him, and he does have his moments. And as you rightly pointed out, there are those errors. I don't think he'll start the next game. I think there's going to be a shuffle at the back. I really do. Is Rico going to be good enough for playing against Newcastle? I'm looking. Billing's going to be out as well, isn't he? I think he didn't look fit. He didn't look fit at all. I've got a lot of time for Stacey, but today I think he struggled at various points. He's got the pace. He can do the overlaps. He's a Frano too.
Yeah,
Frano in his style, but he struggled a little bit today, I think.
Yeah, Paul, I did have to mute your mic very quickly whilst you just did that costume change as you somehow morphed into a former shirt-wearing supporter. Yeah, not a problem at all. Some people that saying that Ronan just said, as we saw there, Stacey was our biggest threat going forward, but some shocking passing. And, the shocking passing, obviously he lost the ball a number of times, but we seem to misplace the ball so many times. And service to Callum Wilson, Al, it just seemed to be long balls up front, especially in the second half. I mean, how's he going to feed off that? It was depressing to see.
It was a lonely furrow for him quite a bit of the time, mainly due to the others tracking back. Well, Callum's out for 2 games now. So where do we go? Is Josh going to be back on Wednesday, the following Wednesday?
Yeah, I think hopefully he should be.
Hopefully he should be, because, as it was said before, Dom, not quite right there yet, is he? So,
no.
Yeah, it's going to be a lonely furrow for Josh King next week, I suppose.
Yeah, agreed. Well, Al, thanks very much for coming on, buddy. We're going to get some more fans, if that's all right. And yeah, appreciate your input. And
just a quick one before I go. Thanks for all the stuff you've done over the lockdown period. It's been absolutely fantastic. And this bottle of champagne is not for when we stay up. It's when we have a shot at goal. All right?
yeah.
It'll be a vintage by then.
All right.
Thank you very much, Al. Appreciate it.
Right.
Cheers, Al. Appreciate that, mate. Coming from Brittany in France, that is Al Gard there. Thank you very much. And what we're going to do is bring in another familiar face. I can see Ben standing by. Hello, mate. Always a regular on the podcast chat. Ross, Paul Lawrence as well. But what we're going to do is bring in Craig and also Louis as well. We're going to go 6 ways. Also, we'll bring in Kirk too. Coming from Brittany. Oh, I can hear a little bit of feedback. I'm not sure, Louis, if you can. Have you got headphones in there, Louis?
I have, yes.
Oh, I can hear some feedback coming from somewhere, but I know it's gone, so it's all good. Kirk. Yeah, okay. Kirk, we'll first come to you. You started off the last show by feeling very, very despondent. Is it just slightly despondent this week, or are you still feeling pretty bad?
So I was frustrated with the players on Saturday. I actually think they put in a lot more effort today, and the aggression and that was there. I'm actually a bit disappointed with actually the formate. I thought we set up well, and I think that Eddie had the right idea to get us to half time. But at some point, we've got to start thinking about going forward, because as I said on Saturday, you can't consolidate these teams for 90 minutes. It's not going to happen. And we've got to become more creative at some point. And we just didn't look like we could get any closer to Callum than we did Saturday. And although I thought Stanislas did well going towards our goal, players like that, we just didn't have the pace going forward. You know, there was times when Rambo got the ball and he was looking to progress when Wolves had 4 players in our box and there was no options. And you're just never going to, the problem for me is I very rarely doubt we can hold a clean sheet. So we've got to, at some point, be a little bit more brave and try and hit them on the counter-attack and score. And we just, until the last 10 minutes, we just didn't look like doing that.
I think for our defensive frailties we had against Crystal Palace, for the first sort of 20, 25 minutes, I was just like really excited, Craig, because I was just thinking, yeah, you know, we're dealing with Traore really well. You know, Smith and Stanislas were sort of, you know, double teaming almost on him and, you know, giving him no chance to, you know, sort of get the crosses in. The amount we conceded a couple of corners, but he was fairly toothless. But then, you know, the more the game went on, you're thinking, well, what are we doing up front? And I think Billing had a weak side-footed shot that was like easily cleared. But other than that, you're kind of thinking, well, I can't remember a shot. And, you know, there's certainly some echoes of Crystal Palace there.
There was absolutely no creativity up front, which was the biggest frustration for me. You know, at the back, we did handle Traore well. We know what he can do. And Smith had a blinding game. I was before the match, I was, you know, quite shocked that he was even starting. But how there was one point where Smith managed to get his foot to it, and of course he upset Traore in the end. So he's. Yeah, I think Smith did a fantastic job, but there's no creativity up front. I saw actually down the bottom one comment saying that Stacey was our most lively player going forwards, and that isn't wrong. Okay, yeah, a bit unfair on Brooks. I thought Brooks did a decent job, but he's still he still can't do 90 minutes, which is frustrating. But that's a worry when Stacey's your best attacking power. And to give Stacey his due, I think he's a bit naive, but he's a good player. You know, touch wood, it won't happen, but if we do go down, I think he will be a real strong player for us in the Championship next season. However, I think some of his decision making is poor, you know, especially for the goal. Wolves' goal, but otherwise, I think he'll get there. He'll get there.
You know, we were all criticising Smith after the Palace game, right? You know, I do think he did have an improved performance defensively, but you know, attacking wise, there did seem to be an imbalance because he's not that type of player that will get down that left wing and get a decent ball into the box. And you know, when you're looking for really good set piece delivery or you know crosses into the box, you know, Rico has proved that he can do that time and time again. But I found so many times in the first half we were really struggling to get balls into the box. Free kicks or corners, we just couldn't clear that first man. And Paul, I mean, Rico, what must he be thinking? You know, left back, ready to go. He brings on Lloyd Kelly later on. I don't know why you would choose him over Rico, someone that's got Premier League experience, albeit I know it's only like a short amount of time. But what must he be thinking?
Well, he'd be disappointed. He'd be sat there probably a bit demoralised in a sense that he's been overlooked for a youth player, if you like, in Lloyd Kelly. But Lloyd Kelly is a good player. He's got pace, and I think that's what Eddie wanted, was the sort of the incisive passing and the pace. So he wanted to make use of the midfield rather than run past the midfield and get a cross in, which is what Rico does, and then struggle to get back. I think Lloyd Kelly plays a much longer through ball two attackers and midfielders, and he played some great passes. But let's not forget that Wolves are a damn good side as well, and we've held them to 1-0 if you like. So as disappointing as it is, and we do need the points, and we're running out of time. Actually, reflecting on the actual scoreline, I think it's pretty good going away to Wolves to get a point, to get just one goal against.
Yeah, nice one,
They're
Paul.
going to rip some other teams apart.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Thank you very much for that,
Okay.
Paul. We're going to bring some other people in. Nice one.
Cheers.
Thanks, buddy. And we're going to bring in a couple of our American colleagues, actually, by the way of Ross Devonport and also Paul Lawrence as well. But first, before we come to you, Louis, how are you feeling?
Better, definitely better than Palace, but just nothing to go on in the attacking way.
League table's not looking particularly great, though, is it? With Aston Villa, getting that loss. I mean, they haven't overtaken us. They're two worse off on goal difference, but it's looking decidedly shady now. I mean, had we got a point, we'd have been all over the moon, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I'd been ecstatic with a point. I was thinking after the first half, I was very happy going in at 0-0. It was just disappointing at having Billings' injury to start off the second half, because I thought the midfield was strong.
I mean,
really.
Why do we go in? Why do we go in after a decent first half performance and then come out like another team? Because Wolves were all over us at the start of that second half, couldn't they?
No idea.
Yeah,
really can't explain it myself.
Yeah, and just before we bring other people in, we keep on saying must win, must win, must win. Newcastle, we have to, otherwise I think we're looking dead and buried.
Definitely a must win.
Yeah. All right, then, Louis, thank you very much, mate. What we're going to do is take you out for the meantime. We're going to bring in some more people as well. So what we'll do is we'll queue up Ben, who's been on the stream before. Ben, hello, mate. But first we'll come to... Yeah, hello, buddy. First we'll go to Paul. What was your analysis of that from sunny Florida?
Yeah, I was sat here in my office, swearing at the screen, and very lonely surroundings here, actually, in my office. I would tell you that I was so proud of them for the first half, in the sense that we were restricting them to really no real chances, and I felt fairly comfortable in that sort of midfield five. In the second half, for whatever reason, when we had possession of the ball, that the speed of which we were trying to make decisions slowed right down. I mean, it was almost to a point where they looked like the nerves started creeping in, that they were so close to the finish line. I think we conceded after 60 minutes or something like that. And we've got to find a way to be braver on the football and try to continue to play forward. Because if you're content with just trying not to get beat and picking up points, that's where you concede goals. And I just felt in the second half, it looked like we were playing for a point, and the tense sort of approach to receiving a football and trying to play forward and not having any options on the ball. I mean, there was literally no one moving off the ball to get in possession of the football. And Eddie's got to be real concerned about this concept of 2 games now with really no shots on goal. And I think, we all know it's going to be a different game on Saturday, but I'm not seeing any player right now that looks like they've got any creative instincts in them apart from Brooks. And that's what's scaring me the most. No one looks like they've got a goal in them or a bit of creativity to go forward and create something. I think that's what's scaring me the most right now.
But do you think Lewis Cook had a better game than what he did against Crystal Palace? Because there were moments from him, including, a couple of decent sort of balls over the top that created chances for us. Stanislas, I thought, first half looked all right. He played that great ball through to Billing early doors, and we won a corner out of that. But, yeah, I take your point. So what do you think the solution should be ahead of Newcastle? Because obviously no Callum Wilson, so we'd presume King would be up top, which... Yeah. And then in our midfield, what do we do?
I've always felt I'd prefer to gamble and get on the front foot and play a pressing system where we can play with 2 forwards and try to score early on. I know against Newcastle it's going to be the same thing where we're trying not to get beat in the first half and concede. But I really feel like we need to take some risks in that game. We have to find a way to play with 2 up top, no question. I know we've played a 4-1-3-2 before, I know we've played 4-4-2 diamonds and 3-5-2s, but we have to play with two forwards. Can't get into these low blocks sitting deep and inviting teams on us. I would prefer to go for it and really try to force the issue in the first half, rather than conceding possession and trying to play on the counter, which I know that is typical for our team. But we've got to force the issue on Saturday. We need to create more chances. We're not going to create 10 or 15 chances in the game, but I think that in the first half we have to just get to a situation where we can carve out 3 or 4 chances, hopefully take one of the goals, and then if we want to play a different style at that point, sure. But this sitting back and soaking up pressure, it's not going to get you out of the relegation zone. I think that's the fear for me.
Yeah, nice one. We're going to come to Ross shortly, then we'll go to Chris. Just had a message from Wayne. No beers tonight, Sam. Well, of course I have. Although it's disgusting dark fruit cider, but can't do much about that. Supplies are low at the moment. Need to do another supermarket run. Ross, you're also in Florida, aren't you? What was your analysis?
I am. I'm actually involved with one of the universities that Paul Lawrence plays against every year. So
oh, really?
It's good to know I got a rival on the other side of the state. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff. So what was your analysis from where you are?
Yeah, it was a little depressing, but we just don't have an identity at the moment. We've always been that counter-attacking team. And I remember Chris Temple saying before the game that when we've had 50% or more possession, which we were close to today, we've lost our last 6 games and scored a total of 1 goal. We just don't like having the ball, which I understand it's not been our identity over the last few years, but in the Premier League, teams have seemed to have figured us out. They're quite happy to let us have the ball, and we don't have an identity at the moment. And listen, Wolves are a solid team. I was thinking towards the end of the game today that I think Nathan Ake might be the only player that gets into that Wolves side out of our outfield players. We just have no game breakers, as Paul said, no offensive spark, and just no one running the show.
Do you think you play
in the middle of the park?
Do you think teams are just getting used to us, more in terms of, obviously Crystal Palace, we were thinking, well, they're very well drilled. They part the bus. They haven't got much attacking flair. Wolves are known for their, relentless attacking ability. And we thought, well, maybe we could have a chance. But they almost, dealt with both sides pretty well.
Yeah, I actually thought defensively we played all right. We limited them, to mostly pot shots until the goal, which was obviously a very well taken goal. We knew Traore was going to get the odd cross in now and again. It was just unfortunate that Raul Jimenez wanted that ball, a little more than we do. I'm not totally upset. I think if we can get the 3 points against Newcastle, obviously Villa getting a point today was disappointing. But I think if we can come home, get the 3 points against Newcastle, hopefully everybody else around us continues to pick up, 1 or nothing. I think he said before this game, we're just looking for that one result that will give us a bit of confidence. There's just no confidence out on that pitch at the moment. He said passing backwards, passing sideways. And yeah, it's going to be a long week. That's for sure. I'd almost just rather play again on the weekend, but get this bad taste out of our mouth. But again, a quality team, and I think we did okay against them. Again, some of these, I thought we were going to play a little more offensively, just because, as you said, Sam, Wolves are a team that like to open it up rather than Crystal Palace, but we just didn't have anything. It was just very frustrating. I agree with Paul on the 4-4-2 situation. I understand why Eddie went with the 4-5-1 today, but we looked a lot better on Saturday in the 4-4-2. And again, I will give Adam Smith credit. I did knock him before the game. Once again, not really him, more he was playing a right back at left back and all that, but he did a good job for the majority of the game against Traore, which is no easy task.
Ben, what were your thoughts after that, buddy?
I just think we're all asking. Wolves are clearly man for man. Can you hear me?
We lost you for a second, but we can hear you now. Yeah, all good.
Sorry, but Wolves clearly man for man, as you just said there yourself, Ross, are a better team than us.
Yeah.
We spent most of the week saying how we want to pack the midfield. Well, we've seen all season there's often a huge gap between Callum and the rest of the players. We've seen that chasm widening and widening and widening. So it's little wonder that he felt isolated today, like he has done quite a lot this season, really. For it to be 2015, we can play basically 4 wingers, because Charlie Daniels and Francis were wingers.
Yeah.
And, Lloyd Kelly and Jack Stacey are wingers. And, in a year and a half, 2 years' time, maybe we'll be back there again. But we can't. If we can have 13 players on the pitch, then then we can do the things that we're all asking for. But we've got to admit that, you know, we've got to either balance it one way or the other and just say, all right, we're going to have to lose out here or take an advantage here. And it's frustrating. Really frustrating. First half an hour, we were brilliant. Getting at teams first, getting at teams sharp. Just like Eddie always used to say, let's go out and get straight at them, get that first goal. And there was a time when we used to get that first goal straight away and suddenly feel a little bit less pressure. But, you know.
Yeah. Kirk, what do you think is the solution to, I mean, obviously, you know, Callum Wilson, you know, won't be playing for the next sort of, you know, couple of games. Do you think having King will be a better, you know, solution up front? And if so, do you think he needs to play up top on his own, or does he need some support up there, or what?
So I have two concerns, really. Defensively, I don't see us keeping a clean sheet in any of the games. So on that side of things, we need to start being more effective going forward. Now, we've got to use Brooks. He is our most creative player. Now, if we're going to sit deep and consolidate teams and keep ourselves in games, we shouldn't be using him in the first 60 minutes and burning him out whilst he's going towards our goal. Let's bring him on in the second half when we're actually going to go for teams. We need to be playing two up top for me at home. We need to be going 4-4-2. Solanke's obviously going to have to play up there against Newcastle. But we've got to be more creative. Defense. I'll go back to the Smith thing as well. I obviously before the game was critical of Smith playing left back. He actually had a good defensive game today. I still come back to the issue though that every time he picks up the ball, he wants to face towards Ake and go backwards, and that's where the issue lies. When we have possession, he's going the wrong way. I like Smith. He's one of my favourite players, but I prefer him on the right. I think with Rico in there, when we're in possession with the ball, he will go beyond Stanislas, Danjuma, and we can actually get balls in the box. The other concern I had tonight, and I actually didn't mention anything on Saturday because I thought I'll wait to see how he plays today, is for me, Steve Cook is a bit of a liability and hasn't come back from this pause of action. He looks way off it, and he's been given the ball away an awful lot in the first two games, and how he just let Neto run past him in the 94th minute, he's concerning me at the moment alongside Ake.
Yeah. Okay. Right. We're going to bring some more people in. What we'll do is we'll just finish off with Paul and Ross over in the States. Both of you, you know, against Newcastle, what's your thoughts? Have you got sort of, you know, fairly positive thoughts overall after that performance, or have you still got the same niggles? We'll start with Paul.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm not feeling very good, Sam. I'm not going to lie. I'm feeling probably worse than I did on Saturday night. I don't know. I don't know where a goal's coming from. I think for the break, I was feeling really positive about us coming out, scoring goals and creating more chances and having a right go at this. But it looks like we're almost getting, you know, we're getting set up here for a really sad ending, and you can just see the way Eddie reacted after the game, that he's a little bit lost himself. He doesn't seem to be as positive on the sideline. It's like there's a few players in that team right now that of course they haven't given up. I'm not suggesting that, but I don't see that there's the belief in the camp that we used to seeing from this club and the younger players as well. And you know, it's a real sad thing right now to feel that vulnerable, and I just don't see where the goals are going to come from. And I'm right with Kirk in the sense that we're going to give up goals, but if we're not looking like we're going to create and score, then how are we going to stay up? And I get that West Ham and Aston Villa are not particularly playing very well as well, but if you're not going to score a goal, we're not going to stay up, lads, and that's the sad truth right now. So I'm feeling really dejected tonight, and I go into Saturday extremely concerned for my football club, and I hope that we can get a win. But even then, I know that we've got tougher games ahead.
Yeah. Okay, Paul, nice one. Thanks very much for your input again, buddy. Thanks very much. That was Paul there in Florida, and Ross also in Florida. Tony, we're going to bring you back, and also Morgan is standing by as well, literally standing at the moment, I can see. But Ross, so can we have a prediction against Newcastle? Early stages.
dear. I mean, I like now I've thought about it. I do kind of like the fact that we have a week. We've obviously got to figure out what's going on up top and what our best combination is going to be. I think I agree with Paul. We have to go 4-4-2. I'm not a Solanke guy at the moment. Maybe you throw Sturridge in there as the young, hungry lad who, this game. I mean, I think this is the biggest game in a long, long time for Bournemouth. If we don't come out with this one with 3 points, if they're not up for this, but as Eddie said last week, he's got to figure out as well how we deal with pressure. And even we are at home, but with no crowd, we're still expected to win this game. I would think. I don't know whether we'll be the bookies' favourites. Probably not. But I think we have to go 4-4-2, and hopefully Eddie can work his magic during the week here and just try and find some combination of 10 outfield players that want to win this game, because this is the biggest one in a long time, I think. But I'm gonna predict a 1-0 victory.
Thank God for that. A bit of positivity, but yeah.
But what does that mean in the grand scheme of things?
What does that even mean? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't.
I could say 7-all, and it would still mean the same thing.
Yeah, and you know what?
I think we can do a 1-0.
Yeah, well, even if we did, it'd probably be an own goal as well, because we haven't scored since March the 7th. So, Ross, thank you very much for coming on, mate.
Cheers. Thanks, Sam.
And what we're going to do is bring Morgan in again. Tony, you've been listening to a number of these thoughts in the background. Has anything that anyone has said resonated with you somewhat?
Yeah, loads of it. It's been great. It's really interesting. I was thinking about the players that Eddie has bought over the years. And I was thinking about how we have always attacked teams down the wing. The reason for that really is if we look at our midfielders, our central midfielders, they're all becoming a bit similar, aren't they? I mean, they all do the same job. We've got no unpredictability coming through the middle. So we have to go out to the wings. And where are Wolves the strongest? Were we ever going to get ahead of them? And I think that's the problem. I think we don't really have a plan B. I mean, that said, I don't think we've ever had a plan B apart from Fletch. So where do we go when we want to beat teams?
Ben's laughing to himself there.
Sorry, it was a Fletch comment.
Yeah. There's an interesting thing just come up on chat that I'm going to put to you, Ben. Do you think Eddie will stay next season? Now, I presume that is based on the fact that if we got relegated, obviously I'm sure he'd stay if we stayed up in the Premier League. But what are your thoughts on, keeping hold of, Edward if we did get relegated to the Championship?
As much as this is his spiritual home, etc., we've got no God-given right to him.
No.
I think he'll stay. I think he'll stay because the management above him are not the same as they were 7 years ago.
Yeah.
However many years ago it was. Sorry, but I genuinely think he only left because of the squash, the squash match comment from Eddie Mitchell. However, that was a very long time ago.
Yeah,
you guys actually remember that specific comment.
Yeah. Wow.
I think that actually made his position untenable at the time. I think he wants his legacy, and he's got absolutely every right to want that. But with what we're hearing about progress being slowed down on the training ground, we're not going to hear anything about about an actual stadium until we've got new investors. Because as much as Maxim's been great, he just hasn't got deep enough pockets to do that himself.
Yeah.
He does need to attract that investment from elsewhere. And while we're laying 18th in the Premier League, that's not going to be forthcoming, despite the fact Newcastle seem to have some.
No, agreed. Well, I hope that's answered your question. Another thing, Algard's well chuffed with the number of goatees in this evening. I'm sorry that I haven't contributed to it, but Ben, can we just take time to appreciate what you've got going on here? This
not a haircut in a few months, or I normally get the beard done the same time as the head, but that's been a while as well.
Yeah,
love
it. Good man. And Craig, we'll come back to you. Some of the thoughts that you've been hearing this evening. It's all pretty negative, isn't it? But there were a few. Sorry, by the way, Morgan, are you having a little party in that room? Because your background seems to go purple and then blue and then yellow, or is it just the lighting on the webcam?
There we go. I think that's. There we go. We've got a bit of a technical issue. There we go.
I was about to say, I want whatever you've got in disco light room. Yeah, Craig. In terms of kind of what you've been hearing, try to give us some positivity. Try to give us something, some crumbs of comfort after that performance today.
Well, for the first 20 minutes, I would say we started quite strongly. We did play badly at all. We handled Traore well. They got no sniffs through the middle. They had a little bit more possession than we did, but we was moving forwards. The biggest problem is I can't see where we're going to score the goals.
No, not at all.
And there was no creativity up front, nothing at all. Yeah, I agree with you guys that Callum was isolated up there on his own. But the problem is if we didn't play the five across the middle, which is something that I think we would have been overrun by Wolves. I think Wolves, especially Neves in the centre, is extremely strong. Of course, we've got Traore as well. And I agree with you, Ben. Man to man, they are a lot stronger team than we are. But I think if we played, for 90 minutes like we did in the first 20 minutes, okay, half an hour even stretching it, we'll get something from Newcastle. I think we will get something from Newcastle. They're not as good a side as Crystal Palace, they're not as good a side as Wolves. Well, a lot worse side than Wolves. And I think there was substantial improvements over the weekend as well.
We seem to be getting away with it in terms of. I'm looking now. West Ham, Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Norwich. Norwich are gone. So yeah, we're all on 27 points, and then you've got Watford. They've got a game in hand on 28. You've got. Brighton. Unlucky not to win against Leicester, but they got a point there, which was probably unexpected. So they're on 33 and. Looking pretty good. You'd have to say it's got to be like 2 from that 4: Watford, West Ham, Bournemouth, and Aston Villa. It is quite scary. I'll come to Morgan. In my mind, I've always thought that Josh King's a better player than Callum Wilson. So in my mind, I'm excited. Next week, assuming that King will be all right, which apparently he was touch and go, for today, but he was decided to be rested. I'm actually quite excited to have him starting up front in his favoured position. Are you? He's looking at me blankly.
Sorry,
Sorry, that was you. Yeah, it did. Yeah, are you excited to see Josh King? Yeah, Josh King. I was just saying that I've always rated more than Callum Wilson. I've always thought that he's a better player. He's more dynamic. He's quick. He's strong. He knows how to score goals. Would you feel more confident starting him up front, as opposed to Callum Wilson?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think the difference between Callum Wilson and Josh King, I'm not taking away that. I'm not saying Callum Wilson is terrible. But from what I've seen of Callum Wilson, and specifically this season, since he's had his ACL injury and since he's been called up to England, I think it's kind of gone to his head a bit. And I don't rate him. And to be honest with you, it might sound harsh, but I would rather start Sam Sturridge above Callum Wilson if Kin isn't back for the next game. Hopefully we got another week, so Kim might be back. Eddie mentioned yesterday it's not too serious, but I personally think we need to try something new. It's not working. Solanke's hopeless. I'm really sorry to say, but he's absolutely hopeless. I've never seen anyone worse than him apart from Nicholas Bentner. But apart from that, we haven't got many options. Maybe give Sam Sturridge a go. Potentially, obviously, if we have Kim, brilliant. But I think Bournemouth need 2 strikers, and I think we need to play Kim with maybe Sturridge. Kim just behind him as kind of a cam centre forward, and then striker. But we're gonna have to try invent something new. Eddie's got to think now. You know, we played again. You know, get rid of Smudge, put him back into his position, bring Rico back into the equation. I even think Billiton today, I don't think he should start. Bring Gosling back into the mix. I think he's more fight. I even personally think back. People are probably going to have a go at me now, but bring back Simon Francis. You know, I spoke to him on the Zoom call last week, and he's still very, very professional. He's the club captain. That maybe the leadership we want. I think we need to stop messing about with the back four as well. I think, you know, bringing Lloyd Kelly on halfway through at 1-0, that's a risky game. Eddie Howe, he needs to stop making so many changes and just set his team up to the best he can be. And also, Danjuma is definitely a starter. Sorry, I know I've gone a bit off subject, but definitely start Danjuma. I think he's class in all areas.
Cool. Okay. I don't know who lives near a road, but I can hear plenty of cars in the background going on. I don't know. I'm hearing a lot of traffic. So yeah, Morgan, appreciate that, mate. And we're going to bring some more people in during the show. So thanks very much for your input again. Kirk, Jeff Hayward was on 5 Live last night, speaking to Chris Sutton, who's famed for his, in professional radio terms, they call it like monologue descent, where they basically, you know, go on a 3-minute verbal rampage, knowing that they'll get lots of people, you know, they can see the phone lines flashing in front of them because they'll get the controversial views in. And he's one that always does that. Adrian Durham on TalkSport, like, is another. And he was saying, you should have kept Fraser. You should have kept Fraser. And in some ways, yes, if his mind was on it, and he could play to the, you know, his potential, then maybe. However, he's shown that he's an impetulant little brat, it seems, and therefore he's a bad apple. What would you have done in hindsight now, knowing that, you know, we've got 0 points out of 2 fixtures where we would have probably wanted 3 or 4?
Nope, he wouldn't have stayed for me. I mean, I've been quite vocal on social media about him. So he had a really good season. Obviously with goals and assists for Callum Wilson. Then the Arsenal interest came in from last summer, and it was quite obvious that Arsenal were unwilling to pay 20 to 25 million pounds for him. He's been clearly frustrated that he didn't get the move that he wanted. He's been misadvised behind the scenes by agents or whatever. You know, he then comes out after 1 goal and 4 assists in January and says, actually, I wasn't trying. So, you know, and do you know what? I'm going to start trying now when actually we're deep in trouble, and it's a bit late because the season's already been going for 4 or 5 months. For me, these teams wouldn't want him if they had to pay 20 million pounds for him. The basic point that he is on a free is the only reason they're interested in him, and he is purely going to be a squad player for a Tottenham, Everton, Arsenal, wherever he ends up. I would rather be relegated with players who are going to leave it all on the field than someone who's looking for an extra 20 grand or whatever he's looking for, because I am convinced 10 years, 15 years from now, he'll have a book that comes out and he'll say that he regrets his decision to leave us in this time when the club needed him. I'm convinced of that. And it's too late then. I mean, I'll make a point. I don't mind being relegated, and I think as a club we're in a better place for 5 years financially, being in the Premier League, to try and recover and go again. What I think we should do is go for it. If we're going to go, let's go. Yeah, let's try and be remembered. We've worked 5 years, so hard for 5 years, to prove ex-players and pundits wrong, because everyone's been saying we don't deserve to be in the Premier League. Let's not throw it away, and all that effort going down, losing 1-0, creating 1 chance a game or 2-0. If we go, let's go giving teams a game, scoring goals, and we go out fighting and losing on the last day of the season. That's where I am right now. I don't want us to be forgotten because the last 8 games we didn't put up a fight.
What's our legacy though for the Premier League? What, like automated turnstiles? That's it. I mean, what else is there? But Ben, whilst he was talking about Ryan Fraser, you were there nodding your head, thinking, "Yeah, he's got it nailed on."
No, I happy clapped for Ryan as soon as we signed him. I thought he looked good. He impressed me. I was quite pleased. a lot of fans started saying that that he only got good when he went to Ipswich. So that's ridiculous. He's already played about 40 games for us. You know, he's actually done the job already. But we didn't need him at that point in time. Now, the thing is, for me, it's just he had a chance to leave. He had a chance to say, you know what, guys, it's been a great adventure. I've enjoyed our journey, but I really fancy going on somewhere. And at that point, he should have gone.
Yeah.
Now, if Matt Ritchie was on the table, would you guys take him back? Quick raise of hands, yay or no?
Oh yeah,
100%.
Right, exactly. No hard feelings there, is there? All right. They were a division below us, but they were a big club. It was a lot more money than we could offer. Fair enough. You go, you do your career. You know, no problem with that at all. This stringing the club along thing leaves a slightly more bitter taste. And the thing is, as a club, we can forgive people. Oh, Warren Cummings, for example. You know, his old man advised him to disappear off and leaving up. You know, we were left pretty much in the lurch for a little while. And yet, you know, that all got squared away. He came back. He got our support again. All right. It took a few weeks before we actually, but you know, we got there again. You can rebuild those. You can rebuild those tips. But when you drag someone out over 18 months, well, it's not 18 months. It's about 9 months, really. But it makes it a lot more difficult.
Do you think there could be any interview that Ryan could do to, you know, because obviously he's leaving the club end of June. Do you think there's any interview that you could do to the club or the newspaper where you could possibly think, oh, okay, fair enough? Or do you think there's, you know, there are no scenarios left where he can come out with his reputation intact?
Not after refusing to play these 2 games while he's still under contract. While he's still under contract. I just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah.
I think I said to you, Sam, I think if we were mid-table and safe, I still don't think it's right. I still think you see the season out. But if we're mid-table and safe, it may be a different conversation, but not when we're 18th and we've got a hard run in and it's looking difficult. Don't leave us in the lurch. That's my feelings on it. You know, he's at an age where he's still in his prime. You know, he's worth 15, 20, 25 million comfortably. And I think he could have given that to us last year. There's probably a lot of clubs interested in him. And for whatever reason, I think the Arsenal one was the obvious one. And I think he clearly wanted that move. But I think he, you know, like Ben said, he strung us along. He's been trying to probably get the 100 grand a week, get matched with Callum. He hasn't got that. And then it's similar to the Josh King. You know, there was interest from Tottenham in Josh King a year or so ago. And then I found his performances dropped off when that didn't happen. Okay, Josh King turned it around and started to improve again. But that seems to be a common thread at the moment with professional footballers. If they don't get their move, their performances drop.
Yeah, Craig, you were nodding your head there. Yeah,
I think that there's no way back. He's under contract still. He's refused to play these 2 games, like Ben said. He has performed poorly all season. We know what he can do, you know, when he's on his game. I'm worried about the effect that he's had on the rest of the group, because we've always had that team spirit here at Bournemouth. And I think he's pulled down the rest of the group. And I was having a chat actually on Twitter a couple of days ago, and we was talking about Jordan Ibe. And his situation. We also talked about Miles Addison. Didn't realise he was at Nuneaton Borough, and he's only 31 years old. And
what now? He's 31.
He's 31 years old.
Is he?
Yeah. He's 31 years old. I couldn't believe it, to be honest. I thought he was a lot older than that. I thought he was I thought he was older than me, but no.
I was talking about my coat. Oh my God.
But then the conversation went on to Ryan Fraser and this move that he's wanted. So, of course, there was Arsenal muted. There was Tottenham muted. They turned his head. There's Everton that's meant to have joined the race recently. Based on his performance.
Yeah.
Well, based on his performances, the last 12 months, would any of these teams want him? I think he's just going to be warming the bench for them. And I'm saying to the guys, I said, it's a lot quicker the way down than it is to get up. We've been very lucky as a club to, get up as quickly as we have. But it's a quick way down. If he doesn't perform at Everton, if he doesn't perform at Arsenal, if he doesn't perform at Tottenham, where are they going to send him? He could go to, a low Premier League club, but it'd probably end up in the Championship. And then from there on.
Who was that guy that played for? I'm just looking. Who was that guy that played for Everton and then went to Arsenal? Was it Francis Jeffers?
It's Francis Jeffers.
Franny Jeffers, the fox in the box.
Yeah. I mean, it just reminded me of him talking about fall from grace. He did, didn't he? Yeah, he did get England cap. But then I think it was like Charlton, then Blackburn, Sheffield Wednesday, Newcastle. Oh, just looking here now, Newcastle Jets.
Bradford City as well, I think.
Yeah, no, you're probably right.
I mean, you have to question the drive, don't you? Because for me, like Craig says, he's not going to be a first-team regular at these clubs that are currently interested in him. And for me, if he's going to look back on his career and see that his career fizzled out when he left Bournemouth, was it worth it? Was it worth for a little bit of extra wedge in your pocket? And that's for me. I think this whole thing tells me that I think he's more money driven than what he's trying to achieve in his career. And I go back to players like Matt Ritchie and like Mark Pugh. They cared way more. I know Matt Ritchie went to Newcastle, but they cared way more about the club than earning a little bit of extra cash.
Yeah, well, it seems with Matt Ritchie that well, obviously Newcastle were going to pay him a hell of a lot more, but you could see every single performance was 110%. So I wouldn't say he left with our blessing, but he left, he always left everything out there, and he left in high regard. Whereas, Ryan Fraser, not so much.
Do you know what?
He's thrown it away here, to be honest. He's completely thrown it away here because he had a very, very good gig. Last season, his work with Callum was brilliant. Absolutely, and I thought, okay, he can kick on. And then at the start of the season, of course, Arsenal and Tottenham started muting their interest. And he's run around for this football club for the past, for the 28 games that he decided to he wanted to bloody play in. He's not shown 110%. And that is inexcusable from any player. And I'm worried about how he's pulled down the rest of the team. What are the Brooks thinking? They thinking, right, okay, what happens if Tottenham comes sniffing? Which I think they probably will, or somebody like that. What do I do? If Eddie's not going to sell me, do I just sit, sulk, and not do my job?
You know what? I don't think that that it would have brought down the rest of the squad.
I hope you're right.
I hope I'm right as well. But I trust them enough as adults, as workmates, as colleagues, and I've worked on enough projects that have got direct endpoints and hard deadlines to know that when you're all clubbing together and you're all pulling in the same direction, you need to do that. And when you see someone that isn't, you naturally kind of push them a little bit back away from the circle. And I wonder whether that has exacerbated his desire to leave, because he wanted to leave. He put in 90%, and then everyone saw that and only gave him 90% of their friendship, which then creates an ever-decreasing circle or something like that. What I do think is, as I said earlier, if you'd said this 9 months ago, 10 months ago, a year ago, 18 months ago, everyone could have just moved on from it. He could have gone straight into the stiffs with Jordan Hyde. We could have just dealt with it. And by leading everyone on a little bit longer, I hope, and I'm happy clapping a little bit here, that it might have galvanised everyone instead.
Yeah, it's interesting to see a few comments coming in. Stefan seems to be on the Ryan Fraser's been hard done by kind of train of thought by the looks of it on chat. I'd love to speak to you, Stefan, to see what you're thinking with a few of your comments. You're obviously.
Do you know what I would say, Sam?
Yeah.
there is a case for keeping him for these 2 games, making him play, be part of the squad, because with his low centre of gravity, he could have put out the cones much quicker than Tyndall or Fletch, and that would have got us, really raring to go straight off.
I take Stefan's point there with the the reason we're playing is because of players out of position, not because of Fraser. But we're merely asking the question, in hindsight, would you have played Fraser? But I think it's undoubtable, Stefan, on the comments that yes, Richie did leave for cash, but he left everything out there. And I'll quote what Ryan Fraser said. He said, "I didn't play for the team," to an interview with Chris Temple back in January this year. That is. You cannot be saying that as a professional footballer, so that's why I think that we were right to not have him in the side.
How much is he earning, Sam? How much is he earning? If he's not willing to, give 110% for AFC Bournemouth, he's still picking up 100% of his wages.
Yeah, scary. Louis, what were you about to say, mate?
Sorry.
Yeah, I'll be glad to see the back of him. Really. Hopefully. We'll have hopefully a more driven club without a guy who's earning his money for nothing.
Yeah, well, not long to go, but we obviously need to concentrate on what we do have. So against Newcastle, what are we going to do? Josh King starting up front, 4-4-2, 4-5-1, 4-3-3. Tony, do you want to take us through your thoughts about what you're thinking about that match? Because it's another one where I'm really worried that we're just going to bow to the pressure.
Yeah, we could well do, couldn't we, really? I think Eddie today thought to himself, I don't want to get beat, and that was the formation choice. I think with Newcastle, he'd be thinking to himself, I need to win, because he's not silly, and, he'll be looking at what fixtures are left, and he'll be thinking, well, where else am I going to get points from? So I think he will go the 4-4-2. I think he will go King and Solanke, and I just think that's what he prefers. I think whatever he sees in training, I think I saw a player say it, Solanke in training is incredible, apparently. But what is his role? What are we trying to make him do? Are we trying to make him to be Wilson? Are we trying to make him to be King? Does he really know what he's doing out there? I know that sounds really simplistic, but what is his job?
Yeah, speaking of training, Warren Cummings in that interview that we had said, Eddie will look at how a player's been doing in training and will pick his side based on, not on loyalty or anything, like basically how well they've been doing. And you've got to say that Rico must be piss poor in training because, given the Premier League performances that he's had and the amount of assists that he's got, that corner at Southampton, the ball over the top for Callum Wilson at home versus Everton, and many more. He hasn't really put a foot wrong, and yet he's playing a right back at left back, and then he brings in the new recruit that hasn't played for ages, and he's sat there warming the bench. I
think Rico only gets a chance when everyone else is injured, doesn't he?
It seems to be that way.
Must be very demoralising.
Yeah, very much demoralising. So Kirk, left wing, right wing at Newcastle. Do you think Dan Juma deserves a start out there on the left?
Yeah, I would go with Dan Juma, and I would probably go with Brooks on the right. My point with Brooks is, if we're going to play Brooks, we've got to be more positive, because we're not going to get 90 minutes out of him. We do not want to burn him out going towards our goal. So for me, if we're going to be positive from the off and we're going to go 4-4-2, we stick Brooks in and we get that forward motion going and we get support to those two strikers. If we're going to sit a bit deeper and be a little bit more conservative and then go a little bit more attacking after half time, let's bring him on at half time. I just don't see the point in using Brooks defensively because he's our creative outlet. So I would personally go with Danjuma and Brooks on the wings. I mean, chuck Solanke and Surridge in there. The thing with Solanke is he has played at Chelsea and he has played at Liverpool and he was exceptional at youth level. Is it a confidence thing? He seems to not have composure in front of goal, but he must have done something to end up at these big clubs. Maybe he's not good enough for the top level, but he must have something in there. I just think if he can score 1 or 2 goals, it might just give him a confidence and he might just open up. That's my hope. We haven't seen that at all in the year and a half that we've had him. But does he need just a goal that will just change him? I don't know. But I think we need to go more attacking. We need to go more positive. I said this on Saturday. We used to be fast out the blocks, 5 minutes, hit teams on the break, early goals. We seem to have lost that this year. We seem to have, whether it's through recruitment, and our players being held back from doing that. I mean, I'm not necessarily blaming the players. Are they being told to just be really organised and not be too expansive? I'm confused.
Yeah. Well, we are going to wrap up. So, Louis, just want to say thank you very much for your input once again, and I'm sure
Thank you for having me
soon. Yeah, no problem. And also, Mr. Tiggs as well. Thank you as ever. I'll have a look at our Sky Bet account and see how well Tony Funnel has done. In fact, I'll do it now.
Tony missed it.
What were we on? Like £17.16 or something?
Yeah. Heady numbers.
And Liverpool are, I think, beating Crystal Palace at the moment. So hopefully that will, we'll get that result in the bag. But he did say a draw for our match, didn't he? Mate, we're on £8.80. £8.80 now. Liverpool will probably take that up to what, like 11 quid? And how many more fixtures are there after that? I might as well just burn a £20 note right now. But anyway, never mind. It's always difficult. Tony, thank you very much, mate.
Thank you, buddy. Up cherries.
Up the cherries. So with you
in all departments.
In all departments. With you four, then what I'll do, we'll wrap up in the next 5.
Yeah.
I will share my screen and we'll do a chosen 11 then for the next match against Newcastle United. This is based on what we're obviously thinking. So hopefully you'll be all able to see that now. And so, yeah, I mean, it's obviously going to be Ramsdale in goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then it's going to be, of course, Nathan Ake and Steve Cook. Right back, left back. We'll go to Kirk.
Left back Rico. He took so much stick at the start when he signed for us. People saying he's too lightweight. I think he's settled in. He's settled in Bournemouth. And this season he's been one of the most progressive players. And he had a really good spell. And then for some reason he fell out of favour again. But for me, he should go in there. He'll overlap the left winger. He'll get balls in the box and create chances.
And Ben, tell us an interesting stat about his time at Leganés.
Right. Oh, sorry. Yeah, from that. No. We were just chatting about Rico on a little chat in here as well, and it's. I mean, he was only there for I think two seasons.
Yeah.
And they put him in their team of the century, like this summer as a tribute to a retired player. So maybe not team of the century, but team of the last 40 or 50 years while this player was existing for them. We really do underestimate him, and I don't think we've given him enough credit for what he does. Yes, he's taken a little while to get used to the pace of the Premier League, but he's there now. He's good enough. Yeah. And I think putting Smith at left back is a bit of an insult, really. I mean, I'd be fuming.
So do we think then Stacey at right back, I mean, given the fact that he showed his attacking in particular, I mean, you're kind of, puffing out your cheeks there as if to say, a bit dodge Sam Craig.
I think he's naive. I think for the goal today, he was at full. I think we need a little bit more experience in that position.
Frano then.
Yeah,
well,
we won 11 players on the pitch, by the way.
13.
But Frano does have that experience. He does have that experience.
Yeah. His legs wouldn't do right back anymore.
That's what I would say. He doesn't cope well right back anymore. If you're going to play Francis, you pull him inside because he gets found out. Play him right back for me.
Yeah. It's a very, very difficult one. Stacey was good, going forwards, and I agree with the comment earlier on that, and it's horrible to think it that he was our best attacking player going forward at times tonight. I would put him in, but I wouldn't be surprised if Eddie leaves him out for this one.
Ben, I'll let you have the final say. Who are we going to pick?
You know what, right?
Yeah.
The way I look at this, if we're going to attack from the off, and get at them from the first minute, then maybe we start with Stacey and have Smith ready to come on if we need to defend a lead.
Right.
Just hope at some point we need to defend a lead.
Yeah. Oh my god.
We definitely need to
Sam.
take the lead.
Sam, before you go to midfield, is Cook a given?
Ooh.
Because I think he's looked very short since we've returned.
You know what?
And,
A few people said that. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, that final minute where he just let Neto run past him. I'm a big Cook fan, but he just doesn't look on it.
But would it be too naive, or not naive of us, but like, blooding Mepham at this point? Oh, well, I suppose we could put Frano in there instead, maybe. I mean,
Frano won't do it. His knee's still inflated.
Yeah.
Now the thing about Cook is when he broke his wrist. Now I've done mine before from falling on it, and I just saw it straight away. Yeah. I remember saying on Twitter he's just broken his wrist, and everyone going, "What are you talking about?" And then it coming out a week later because Eddie doesn't want to ever admit anything. He was playing within himself with that broken wrist, and I really hoped that now after the break he'd be fully healed. He wouldn't be playing within himself. But you're both right. He's not been completely up to the speed that we expect. Me, I'd still play him, but I can see where you're coming from in that he's still not quite tippy top.
Cookie is, on his day, he is Mr. Dependable. Okay. He does make some, he made some very, very silly decisions today. And 9 times out of 10, he's dependable. But on the odd occasion, what he did tonight, I don't think many League One defenders would do that.
Well, we'll keep him in for now.
Yeah.
But there's a doubt there. What we'll do is we will move on to the midfield before we go, because we'll kind of wrap this up in the next few minutes. I mean, it's difficult to tell with Billing what his issue was. Like an ankle knock or something that he had. So, Lerma, I think, would probably be in once again. Or would he? I don't know, because he's played 2 matches in a row. Gosling came on again as that disruptor. But then if you're going to have him, you need someone creative as well.
What's Ser's done? Sermon should. I think Sermon, like we were saying the other day. I think he should have played tonight because he can get the ball out quickly wide. That's what we need against Newcastle. Just keep hitting them on the wings, getting those balls into Callum and Solanke, and making something happen.
I'll put them in there then in terms of striking.
Wilson suspended.
Oh yeah.
Didn't it? So
good point.
So probably Josh King if he's fit.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry,
I'm not sure he's going to be, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then, I mean, Ben, I'll let you have the say on who we're going to pick in the centre midfield.
Oh, it's so difficult, isn't it? I mean, what we need to be playing with 4 wingers. Okay, so obviously we're looking at. So to me, it's Lerma and Cook, unless after half an hour one of them's ineffectual, in which case you throw on a Gosling or a Sermon. I can totally see why Sermon's an option for you, Craig. He's just not my first option. Not anymore. 2 years ago, everyone was calling him sideways Sermon and slagging him off, and he was still my first option. But I just think we progressed a little bit further than that now. For me personally, but I can see why. But for me, I'd go with those two. I think Lewis had a good game today. He got stuck in. He put his foot about. He got kicked a couple of times. He stood back up and kicked them. I'm happy with that.
And Kirk, would you say that Brooks and Danjuma are as good as Harry Wilson? Some people almost think he's got a clause that he has to start a certain number of games, and you do start to think that, because he's had some poor games, great from a set piece and all that. But Brooks, you can't not have him. And then Danjuma, when he's been involved, he shows signs, doesn't he?
Yeah. So we have got the creativity on those wings if we play the right tactics with the right. We're going forward. We're being creative. We're being positive. We've got the creativity there. The problem with Harry Wilson playing him in that 4-4-2 is he's not great supporting a right back. That's where obviously the Crystal Palace goal came from. I think the issue we've got in that midfield, which Mr. Tiggs pointed out, is creativity. For some reason, Lerma is a holding midfielder, always has been, but Lewis Cook has almost become a holding midfielder, and we never brought him to the club to be a holding midfielder. He was meant to be our creative Gerrard-like player who opened defences, took 3 players out of a game with 1 pass. Now, I don't know whether this is him being held back in a tactical way or whether he's just lost that confidence from his 9 months out injured, but we seem to have 2 holding midfielders, and that's where I think our problem is. I think if we play the right way and Eddie pushes us forward, we can have those wingers and those right back and left back overlapping, and we can get balls in the box. But the centre midfield, I don't see us breaking teams down.
You know what? I'm making a decision. Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this. And then we're going to do this. Right. Those 2 up front will be absolutely fine. But it's not going to happen, is it? But
I mean, what's about chucking Surridge in?
Yeah, well, yeah, people have said that on chat, actually, saying, you know, why not?
What's the worst that can happen? We haven't scored any goals.
I said at the start of the season.
We carry on scoring goals.
Mousse going. At least I rated Mousse, and he's proven himself. You know, certain games for Sheffield United. You know, I think I would have put him above Solanke, based on what it's done. But
the problem Eddie Howe's got is justifying that 21 million.
Yeah,
that's where he is now.
Yeah.
Think? I mean, do you think that he's in a position whereby the trust is broken down enough that he actually has to play players he doesn't like to justify what he spent on them?
Well, we've been here before with Jordan Ibe, obviously. That was 15 million. Yeah,
that's brilliant.
Yeah. I think the problem with Mousse, from what I understand, is he wasn't really that good on a training ground. And obviously Eddie does demand a lot on a training ground.
He was very good. He was very, very good at driving through the channel. Well, driving from the Channel Tunnel at about 120 miles an hour and posting Instagram.
I think I'm hoping with Solanke, and I've felt this way for a long time. Could a goal change it all for him? Where that goal is going to come from, I don't know. But there's got to be a player in there somewhere. He cannot have ended up at Liverpool and Chelsea. Bearing in mind, Jurgen Klopp was the manager, and he's pretty decent. You know, there's got to be some sort of a player in there for me.
I think there is. I think and I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's a confidence thing. But where we are at the moment,
we ain't got time.
No, we haven't got time. We haven't got time for him to get his confidence back. You know, we're not playing any poor teams. You know, if we had an FA Cup game, you know, where he could grab one, then maybe he could kick on. But we're not playing any poor teams. We just haven't got the time. He needs to pick up the game.
Was it 5 years ago that Lewis Cook, Dom Solanke, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and David Brooks won the under-19s or under-17s World Cup for England?
Well, I think David Brooks was he Wales?
No, he's Welsh now. He's Welsh now, but he won. He was player of the tournament whilst he was playing for England. Obviously before Joe Roach got hold of him and sent him to the Wales youth system, which Joe Roach did with all of our children. So I mean, these guys aren't bad. Like I say, Dominic Calvert-Lewin's actually doing it right now. Now, him and Solanke were both fighting for that number 9 spot in the England under-19s, under-21s.
Yeah.
One of them's been given enough time to actually do it. One of them has been jumped around a couple of sides and not been nurtured in the same way. I don't know. I'm making excuses and I'm happy clapping, but That's what I do.
I've just done a bit of a Google on it. So the under-17s championship was in 2014, which Lewis Cook won, and then 2017, the under-20 World Cup. So yeah, it's not that long ago.
Scary times. Well, should be an interesting one next week. 6 o'clock.
It was a question.
Yeah. 6 o'clock live on Sky Sports. What do you think about the crowd sounds, by the way, tonight? I thought, they were better. It seemed to be all AFC Bournemouth chants, and they had a mixture. I think I heard a bit of Eddie Had a Dream, a bit of Ali Ali Ali-O. Well, we had a few.
I thought it was good, actually. I thought it was all right, actually. Credit to Wolves for that. They set up quite well.
Yeah, but I mean, BT Sport, I think BT Sport and Sky are using different systems for the audio, but I actually thought it was all right because we heard our fans quite a bit. Obviously, it didn't affect what happened on the pitch, but alas, Bournemouth are still in the relegation zone, but, we're getting away with it. But the more time goes on, we need to win these matches. Got to say, guys, thank you so much. Ben, thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Honestly, really appreciate it. Cheers, guys.
Cool. Thank you very much. And Craig, once again, thank you so much.
Cheers, mate. Cheers, Kirk.
Cheers, Craig. Thank you.
Newcastle. Thanks very much, Craig. And Kirk, once again, thank you very much for coming on, buddy.
Thank you so much, Sam, for having me.
No worries at all. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And we're going to be back after the next match, same time, Wednesday, 8 o'clock, after the Newcastle United home game. Hopefully we'll get something out of that. Just a bit of sad news to end on. Just heard from Cherries Trust, actually, that the former Cherries Trust board member, Gary Hickson, has passed away. Cherries Trust wish to pass their sincere condolences to his wife and family. He was instrumental in so many things with the Trust, but especially the setting up of the disability focus group at AFC Bournemouth. He worked with honour and pride. Cherries Trust say that they will be making either a donation to the requested charity of the family or sending a wreath from all Trust members. So do follow Cherries Trust on Twitter to find out a little bit more information on that. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. Remember, if you want to take part, you just need some of these and go to afcbpodcast.com/take part. And there's going to be more videos out, including, some more reviews, some fans' thoughts, I'm absolutely certain. But until then, you've been watching Back of the Net, the AFC Bournemouth podcast. We'll see you soon. Up the cherries.
Back of the net!